We think it is both our moral right and duty to be aware of the social conditions of other people, of issues that have a direct or indirect impact on us and the people around us. We think it is important to know. But the more important question is, who's telling us the story? In her recent stand-up comedy show, if one should even rightly call it that, Hannah Gadsby announces that she wants to quit comedy. Comedy, Gadsby proclaims, does not allow her to tell us her whole story. The entire story is hidden behind the jokes, wrapped in funny body movements and gestures and puns that don't allow it to peek out. It sits there, marinating, waiting to be told. For Gadsby, it's time her actual story came out. For that to happen, Gadsby thinks she needs to stop making jokes, that her jokes have never allowed her to speak out and that they never will. We must ask, what is the required philosophical claim that justifies her quitting? Don't we already know her story? And how is her story any different from other comedians who've also suffered in their lives? To understand her claim, we need to first understand the phenomenological notion of lived experience. What is lived experience, and how is it different from experience? In his essay on Dalit theory, Sundar Sarukkai, a prominent contemporary Indian theorist, writes, "Let us say I go to a place and eat ragi balls, a staple rural food in Karnataka. What is it that I'm experiencing? What is it that I'm supposed to experience? And what is the relation between this experience and the authentic experience of a rural person who eats ragi balls?" The normal view of experience, which Sarukkai calls the naive view, is based on the assumption that an experience can be replicated. Its focus is on the materiality of experience. This means that we can replicate any experience somewhere else, given of course the same kind of material that can generate the same kind of causal effect. In simple words, if I were to try to experience poverty of a person living in a poor neighborhood, I could easily do that by replicating his conditions or going to such a neighborhood. In either case, I do not need to actually be born in a poor family and raised by poor parents to experience poverty. This assumption in turn assumes that there is no necessary connection between the experiencer and the experience. Sarukkai writes further, what this view does is to remove the subject as an essential component of experience. All experience is thus similar to the experience of fun fairs, and anybody who pays can participate in the experience. But can experience really be materialized, commodified and transferred without taking the subject of experience into account? The answer, surely enough, is no, and that is where lived experience comes in. The normal kind of experience, Sarukkai writes, has three important components that a lived experience necessarily lacks: the freedom to be part of the experience, the freedom to leave the experience, and the freedom to modify the experience. Imagine again that I want to experience poverty. Normally, I'd try to do that by going to a poverty-stricken area where poor people reside. I'd live there for a certain amount of days, I'd eat their food, wear their clothes, and so on. In doing this, however, I have 1. Chosen to be poor. I can 2. Choose to leave if I so wish, and 3. Modify my experience if it doesn't suit me. None of these 3 things can be done by a person who's actually poor. This is because the actually poor person does not experience like I do. He or she, on the other hand, lives the experience. When it comes to poverty, therefore, what I go through is an experience. What the poor person goes through, however, is lived experience. Sarukkai writes, the most useful way to thematize lived experience is to recognize that there is no element of choice or freedom associated with it. Lived experience is not about freedom of experience, but about the lack of freedom in an experience. But one might rightly ask, what does this have to do with Hannah Gadsby and her act of quitting comedy? Gadsby's claim is that she is unable to tell us her story through comedy. Gadsby says,
the way I've been telling that story is through jokes. And stories, unlike jokes, need 3 parts: a beginning, a middle, and an end. Jokes, only 2 parts: a beginning and a middle.
For us to know her entire story, we need the end. We need to see what really happened to her, and more importantly, how she felt. In jokes, the end is always suspended. Jokes are always about other people. We laugh at jokes because the people involved in the joke are objectified. They're either people we do not know or people with whom bad things have happened before but are fine now. We laugh at dead baby jokes because there are no babies in front of us actually being killed. We laugh at people slipping on a banana peel only if we are sure that they're not badly or fatally hurt. Gadsby tells us that she's tired. She's tired of jokes and she needs to tell her story. And we must listen. We must listen because it is only Gadsby who knows her story. When Gadsby makes lesbian jokes, we laugh because we think it is a thing of the past. It is a thing that has been overcome. But what if Gadsby still lives it? How are we so sure that she does not? To be sure, however, we can never really experience what Gadsby has experienced. Because of the very nature of lived experience, it is impossible to do this. But that is not the point. By telling us her story, Gadsby can finally proclaim ownership of a story and her complete right to it. Storytelling is a political act. It gives strength to the storyteller. It gives the storyteller a chance to attempt to tell us her lived experience. The world is seen through her eyes. The world is seen through her body. We listen with an open heart only when we realize this notion of lived experience. When we realize that no matter how much we know or how much we have experienced, we can never really experience what the other person has. There are only chance at understanding the other person is by listening to their story. By telling us her story, Gadsby wishes to do justice to her lived experience, and we, by listening, should do justice to her. More questions, however, arise. In the political act of storytelling, the storyteller's concepts are borrowed from language that is shared. Since language is shared, our concepts are also necessarily shared. How personal, therefore, even is a lived experience? Moreover, the lived experience itself and the story that we tell about it are two different things. To what extent, then, is the storyteller doing justice to her own lived experience by putting it in words? These are important philosophical ideas that we should come back to later. For now, though, thank you for watching.